In 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. You have entered Night Vision, and I am Opus Night. Tonight, we have 6 amazing authors, and I am so glad that you joined us. Everyone, say hello. Hello.
Hello.
This is the most that we have had at one time, so I am excited, and we're going to get started. So, Laura, show us your beautiful book and tell the readers a little bit about you.
Okay, well, I'm actually excited to talk about the series of Japanese ghost stories I've written. They are actually being published in paperback form in February, so I'm kind of trying to hype them up. So right now what I have is just a picture of the cover on my phone, but it is a series of ghost stories from when I lived in Japan, and I love Japanese culture. So I just kind of pulled urban legends and wrote stories about them. And it was a total genre shift for me from fantasy, so it was really fun.
I love it. All right, Adam, how are you, dear?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. I've got Satirical and the Great Migration, and I've got a background, so I have to hold it right in front of my face.
Yeah, just put it right there and stand still. Back up a little bit. There we go.
There we go. There we go. Satirical and the Great Migration is the first book in a series of 5. Completed the last one right at the end of November. So I'm going to show you the other ones really quick. This is the 4th one, St. Kipstopher and the Miraculous Yarkarma. And the final one, The Prophets of Doom and the Leaping Hedgehog. It's fantasy steampunk stuff with a world that's just getting a little bit too hot. I am not a campaigner for global warming kind of stuff. It just happened to be the theme that popped out when I started writing this thing. And so Satchel Pong is a meteorologist with a secret. He knows that the globe is warming, but he's too scared to tell anybody. So it's kind of about leadership. It's about recognizing that you've got to do your part. And so he ends up leading his people on a migration across this fantasy world, and chaos ensues.
Very nice. I love that. Alrighty, Jade.
Hi, I'm Jade Austen. So my book is called I'm Still Alive, and it's about a new vampire who is changed against her will, and she's trying to navigate this world where she doesn't remember anything from her past, and she's trying to get away from the guy that created her.
I like it. I like it. Katie?
Hey, okay. Well, I'm here actually, since I've written multiple series, I'm going to feature my young adult adventure fantasy, which started with the 12 tasks. And actually, this past December, I just released its sequel, The Vagarian Sire. And so, sorry, I'm trying to get out of the light. There you go. The Vagarian Sire. But this series kind of pertains to a multiverse that contains 12 magicked planets, whereupon all the entities, beast beings, and the like that exist on those planets potentially can utilize, of course, what we perceive on Earth as magic. And ever since the dawn of time, there have been periodical threats to existence, life itself. And during those moments, a hero would arise from an obscure planet, one of those that don't contain magic. The hero would always be called the Jed and have similar capabilities and use the same items to help kind of maintain the balance and allow existence to continue. So the first book kicks off with my main character, where she appears on a world not Earth, doesn't have any clue about the 12 worlds or the magic or the like, and is told that she might be the next Jed. And so in the first book, she has to go through a testing process to prove if she is this potential hero of the universe, and if so, obviously there is this great war, there's this cosmic threat on the horizon. So that's where the series is.
I love it. Very nice. Abigail?
All right, so my books are super on trend right now. This is Season of the Ruiner. They are a series. It's currently a series. The second one came out in November, and this is my cover for that one. Came out in November. It is a series about this takes place in a Middle Eastern fantasy world. I have a background in Middle Eastern culture, and I love it. And it was just the perfect setting for a fantasy. So it's about this basically diamond mined heiress who commits a crime, and in this world they are allowed to. I use the verb ruined, like as in using runes. They are allowed to request trial by ruining. So instead of taking the crime and the punishment, they then get turned into like these monster hunters. And so she is transitioning kind of into that life, meets a lot of characters. There's a necromancer, there's an undead dragon. I'm real excited to be in that world right now and writing on that one.
I love it. You said necromancer, you had me. Sorry, you had me. Chris.
My name is Hugo Hobbs. I don't know who Chris is.
It came up, Chris Olden.
My name is Hugo Hobbs. My book is Quest for Fire. This is a book about 6 sources, 4 of which are elemental. The source of fire has forsaken its vows of peace, and both the light and the darkness send quest parties looking for her, for her sight is mysterious. The darkness finds her first, and this turns into a 2-theater book as we follow the alliance of elves and men trying to find the source of fire, while meanwhile in their homelands, the darkness comes with this very source in which they're seeking and brings destruction upon their lands.
Beautiful. And I apologize, your name is Hugo.
Hugo Hobbs.
Hobbs. Okay. Everyone, so you know. I apologize. Yeah, I'm not sure.
No worries, it happens.
That wonderful technology of ours. All right, guys. I am going to field some questions, and I'm going to call on each one of you. That's why we have a round table kind of set up tonight. And please join in if you have any questions for the other author, or if you want to add to whatever they say, okay? All righty. Abigail, how long have you been writing?
I think like most people, I've been writing for forever, or, most people who have decided to be writers. Been writing for pretty much forever. I've been writing seriously only since, well, I wrote pretty seriously all through my college degrees, but creatively only really since 2019, when I had my young adult lit RPG picked up by a traditional publisher. And then I was like, oh, well, I guess I better come up with something else. So then I've really been writing very seriously every day just since then.
I love it. Jade.
So basically the same. I've been writing since I was really little. I remember even as far back as 3rd grade, my teacher would tell us to write a story about the 3 Little Pigs, but a spinoff. And I would write for so long that I would go past the cutoff of when we were supposed to have the assignment due. I was like, it can't be short. It has to be long and detailed and beautiful. But I've been writing ever since then. This was actually my first book that I've published and finished. This past February, I decided that I needed to finish it because it kept coming up in my mind.
Well, we're so glad you did. Everyone, good job.
Great.
Hugo.
Like Abigail, I've been writing for most of my life. I wrote this particular story back in the early 90s, but just didn't have the confidence to push through. Come the pandemic, I did. I was highly inspired by George Floyd protests, and I made a point of having a multicultural cast. I have Blacks, Asians, and Latinos in my book. I wanted to make sure everyone had a character they can get behind It's a great fantasy story. And like I mentioned earlier, it's a two-tier or two-theater. We have the group that's actually questing for the source of fire. And unbeknownst to them, back in their homeland, someone else has already found it and is bringing that power against their family and friends. So I find it a two-part story that I really enjoy, and I think the readers will too.
Nice. Laura?
I also started around 2019 or so. I wrote a decent amount in college, but nothing super serious. But I found that when I moved to Japan, I had a lot of time on my hands at night, and I ended up writing my first, like the first book in this magic trilogy that I did. And that's also when I started my first Japanese haunting book. So yeah, pretty seriously since then. So almost 3 years now.
Very nice. Adam?
I think I started writing by writing a stage play back in around 2009 or 10, turned it into a novel, and published the first novel in 2012. But I just want to say, like, real quick, I'm really impressed and inspired right now by my 11-year-old daughter, who was cranking at 11:30 on New Year's Eve because she really wanted to finish her rough draft of her manuscript in 2021, and she did it, and she was so excited. And it's just so cute. Like, she thinks that a really expensive boat is $100, you know. It's like it's fun. Like, my wife's reading through her manuscript. So I don't know, I think we all start when we're young, and it's cool when we get to inspire, you know, younger authors to like take a crack at it, and she just gets to be in an environment where that's not weird or strange, you know.
That is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And the reason that I do field questions to each individual. Now, if you notice, I went around to ask everyone, and Katie, I did not forget about you. The reason I go around and field questions to everyone is I want readers to understand that we have new authors, and then we have seasoned authors who have also legendary status, you know, and it can be, my version of legendary status is not how many books they've written, but how many years they have been writing. You know, it's not that hard popping out books, you know, and the hard part comes with getting across to the readers what an amazing book it is. You know, the marketing, everything that has to do with the book surrounding it. Now, the story itself, if you love this story, the readers are going to feel the story. Now, on that, Katie, same question.
Okay. Well, kind of going along with you, coming up with ideas of characters, backstory, worlds has, you know, been ever since my childhood, playing imaginary games with my sister. And but actually starting to write something, I kind of finally decided I was going to attempt that right before going to college. Obviously had to put it in hiatus. So my first writing experience was a little slow. Picked up the computer, the proverbial pen, after graduating. And I guess as a new writer at the time, it takes a while to kind of figure everything out. So it took me almost 9 years to figure out the indie publishing bracket and decide if I was going to indie or not, but published my first book. Since then, I have 6 full lengths and 4 novellas out. And, you know, looking back at the time when it took me 9 years to come out with a book, essentially, to this year's plan, I'll be putting out 5 to 6 new works in a year. It speeds up, and so anybody who's a new author, you know, it gets rhythmic in some senses and quicker, and you know, once you start knowing your stuff, you feel more confident, so it's always nice.
Definitely. And that's the thing that this show tries to bring across, that I have a lot of emails that I am sent weekly, because at the end of the week is when I will go over everything. And probably at least 10 times I am asked the same question, and that is, What does it take to make a great story? Now, I'm going to pose this question to each one of you, because every great story starts with a vision, your vision, because everyone else's opinion does not matter. If it's a beautiful story to you and you have conviction in that story and in the characters and in your creations, that is your baby. That is your story. That is your vision. You know, and because of that, I want readers to understand that it poses the same question that, how long have you been writing? Now, I know there are profound writers, very prolific writers. And sometimes even movies, when you watch them, script writers. Now, you know, Katie, we've had people who write scripts. We've had musicians. We've had everything on the show at this point. And the one thing that I have found more common than none is being asked, how hard is it to do this? Or how hard is it to do that? You learn. We all started baby steps. Baby steps. So if there are readers, which I know there is, whomever envision writing a book, everyone here, please tell them in unison, do it. Do it.
Do it. Do it.
Now, Katie.
Yes.
What advice are you offering to new authors? You have a few years under your belt now and a few books.
Okay, well, actually, the advice I've been giving around lately, and I don't remember if I've done it here before, but the one that's I think very pertinent that I didn't realize is the fact that it's never too early to start building your platform. And what that means is your social media and your newsletters, and even well before you write, or well before you publish a book. Even when you're conceiving a book, if you set your goal to writing, you can start marking yourself on those platforms and building your audience. So by the time you release your book, you have a bunch of followers already there ready to buy your book. I wish I did that from the get-go. I did the opposite, where I published my first book, waited around for like half a year and stared at no sales and wondered why before I realized, oh no, I have to actually, being especially an indie author, work at it and get on all the platforms. And slowly and steadily, I've figured out how to schedule my time and add a platform. So early last year, I added YouTube, and just in December, I started to get on TikTok. But it's one of those things, if you add and work, you can start building people, and it'll make it your, at least the sales part of your experience a lot easier.
I love it. Adam?
Well, one of your questions was what makes a good story, and I think it really starts with a great what if. And so, what is a great what if? I guess that's, what if there was, boy, I could come up with 10 of them really quick once you get used to that. What if there was 2 elves riding an armadillo? Is a really short flash fiction that I have, and that's the first line. 2 elves are riding an armadillo, and then I realized, here we go. So anything can happen now. So if you can come up with a what if, you can write a story.
Definitely. Laura?
I think what makes a good story are great characters that are relatable for the reader, because I think they could go through pretty much anything, and if the reader can relate to it, it'll be great and better. And if they can't, then it doesn't really matter how cool the story is. I feel like I have a hard time getting into it. So to me, it's the characters. And I actually forgot what the other question was, so I'll just do that one.
You're good, love. Chris or Hugo?
Hugo.
As long as that's on there, I apologize 1,000 times over, just so you know, because as long as that's on there, my mind's going to pick at it. So Hugo.
That's all right. Hugo Hobbs. I think writing the story is about 1/3 of the journey. Finding a great editor. I personally found Kate Seeger and we went back and forth several times over several months. It was not the end process, because then you got to put up your book, whether it's through a traditional publishing company or something like Amazon KDP. You got to market your book. Again, I was fortunate enough to find Michael Evans, who led me in contact with you and several other interviewers. I think a writer coming into this needs to know that there's more than just writing a great book. It's making it work, making it professional, and selling it. And to me, that's been the biggest thing. And that's something I'm going to take with me in this Source Wars series, is the lessons I learned in book 1.
Now, I haven't forgotten, everyone. Just a side question. Is it everything you thought it would be going
More.
into it?
Absolutely more.
That's what I was waiting for. Abigail?
So, I mean, I'm not going to repeat what everyone else has said. I wish I knew how hard marketing was going to be when I decided to go the indie route, after my traditional publisher dropped us all. I wish I knew how hard it was going to be. I already had a tiny following because I stream on Twitch, but like, they don't care about books. They care about video games. So there's that. But advice I would give to authors starting is write all the time. They think that when they sit down to write, they're writing something they're going to publish. I write like a billion things that never see the light of day. I started my 20th novel this year, and now I only have like 3 out. And so just like write. None of it is going to be strong. I don't say it's not. I always tell my clients, I do mentoring and stuff, I say it's not bad, it's just not strong, or maybe this isn't working. And you can always take ideas that you have and rehash them. But the best way that I have found for me is just repetition. Just write all the time, and ideas will come to you quicker. And I forget who was talking. Someone mentioned this. It might have been Adam. That the more you do it, the easier it becomes. So that and what makes a good story, have to agree with Laura, is characters, which I always thought my characters were great, but I am actually, none of my siblings like Season of the Ruiner, because the character deals a lot with depression and thoughts of suicide, which they don't have, so they can't relate to that character, which made me sad, because, you know, that's a lot of personal stuff that you put into your stories. But I think one friend that I have read it and did love the character and said it was amazing and it really inspired him when he read it. And so I think even if not everyone loves your characters, someone will. And if it's very you, there is someone out there like you that are going to relate to your characters. So I wouldn't be you know, don't try and change the things that you feel super strongly about like that. There's someone out there who needs to read that.
Definitely. And, you know, everything is subjective. That's the thing. The rationale behind anyone reading your work is you have to feel responsible to yourself and to the story, because you know where you were coming from, you know how they live, you know them inside and out. And, you know, I hear a lot of back and forth about, you know, a story has to grow. Well, a story can go completely backwards. It can go up and down. You can take a reader on the most incredible journey they've ever had, just like movies do. You never see things coming. You know, a twist in a book is the same as it is in a movie. You should not be seeing it coming. And I know a lot of authors who believe the same thing, which, you know, I don't think that it takes years to learn that. I think it's more intuitive when you know your characters. Like Laura said, they're going to have those twists and turns because you know what they're thinking. You know what they're doing. You know how they're feeling, you know, and the emotions are going to come out. And it fills those books and your work. You know, I truly believe that that's how masterpieces are made. You know, Jade.
I was going to piggyback off of what Abigail said because I really wish that I had someone tell that to me before I published this book, because I did have some beta readers that were like, oh, she seems pretty weak since she's depressed, and I'm like, oh, shot to the heart, like, no. Like, someone that's depressed is not weak, they're actually very strong. So I think that something for inspiring writers to know is that if you believe in your character, other people will believe in it. And if there's a reader that doesn't, then that book's not for them.
Exactly.
Right.
Beautifully put. Now, everyone, we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty. When you're building a profile for your characters, but I'm saying characters specifically, how do you build on that emotion of that character from the first page? How do you start, okay, this character's first line, this character, the way they look, their characteristics, how do you incorporate that first character that all the other characters are going to survive through this story with, hopefully, unless I'm writing it. But this is for everyone. So let's go, guys. How do you build that first character?
Personally speaking, my first character. Go.
Love you, Hugo. Go ahead.
I was going to say my first character I saw as an introduction. I simply used this 15-year-old black kid to, he was going through the rite of initiation, kill an orc and forever be the rite of passage. And then he stumbles upon a situation he hasn't seen before, and curious, he follows it up. Originally, I was just going to use him in chapter 1, but he eventually became so interesting that I ended up using him later on, and he became an integral part of the book. His name is Kevin. He's a knock in my book. And if you ever pick up and read it, you'll see that he has a story arc that's just superb. But originally, it was just supposed to be an opener. I can't say about the other writers, but it turned out that way.
I love it. So I'm going to call on you guys. Abigail.
So I love strong openings, and I feel like I'm good at them, and I'm good at dramatic endings, but like most people, you know, it's that middle bit.
Oh yeah.
But so with Sybil, my main female from Season of the Ruiner, I opened with her like in her element. She goes and, you know, breaks up this this fight and this money thievery happening on her family's land. She has an older brother, but he's not really in charge, and we see that she is. And but I also threw in this subplot where she has this betrothed from another country that she doesn't hate, and I wanted that to be a little different to give her some more angles, you know. And then when he shows up, we see that like she's like been in love with him for a while, even though, you know, long distance. So we see this like really tough girl who like, you know, goes in with her scimitar on this horse and breaks up a fight. But then she has this softer side, but she just really has her life together. I have a couple scenes where she talks with her mother about her future, like what she dreams of. And then, of course, obviously all that is ripped away. And she gets thrown into a world where she is not in control. She doesn't know what's going on. She gets physically changed. So some of the things that she wanted, she absolutely cannot have now. And then she ends up very alone. So I like setting up characters with like, this is who they are. These are their good angles, their bad angles, their quirks. So that way, when that transformation happens and that story starts, we can see what they're going to be struggling with. So I like to, that's what I like to do.
Very nice. Adam?
Yeah, I've been considering the question here, and it's a great question. And I think that for me, and I think maybe it's different for every person, but I think for me, the rubber really hits the road when characters encounter other characters, and I love to write dialogue. I'm a big fan of The Big Lebowski, just because the dialogue is so sharp with its half sentences, and how the different characters know like what the other one's thinking because they know each other so well, and so they cut off mid-sentence and the other person answers what wasn't even said. So I love to develop characters by sticking them in situations where they have to talk to people they don't agree with, or that kind of thing. And I think that's really fun, and maybe taps into my love of improv and theater and stuff like that too. So that's kind of my take, but
Now,
I think there's lots of different great ways to do it.
do you enjoy satirical writing?
Yeah, I love satire. Yeah.
I can usually tell personality wise. I guess I've written long enough and been around enough, so to speak, that just having a conversation with someone, I can usually tell, oh, you'll love this book. Oh, you'll love that, and things like that. So I'm just checking on myself just to make sure.
Well, you're right. I do love satire.
Awesome. Katie?
Okay, well, for me, since I've actually have 3 series at the moment, each character and the story or the universe that they're set in kind of interwove together from the start. So I can't really have my stories without my main characters, or vice versa, at least for me. And each story helped influence how the character developed on, as they progressed through it. My first one dealt with a shifter who, as a side note, I always try to make sure I think all characters have flaws from the get-go, as minor or major, but they need to have something to humanize them and not just make them, because I love these extraordinary circumstances and very strong women overall. But my first series, my main character, she has chips on her shoulder because she's a race that's been conquered. She's a shifter in a kingdom ruled by humans. Her society has been forced to kind of eventually blend in with humanity, and so dress the way humans dress, believe what humans believe. And so, the whole universe kind of developed in and around her. And the same goes with my other 2 main characters. The book I showed earlier, my young character ends up, on this world that she doesn't know. And she, being a very young character, being young adult, I actually started her at 13, and the series will progress until she's in her early 20s. So on these younger books, one of her biggest flaw is, she is maturing. She is, still part child, and, trying to figure out as she's coming of age what to do. And so she is very quick to react to things, and has a lot of issues of taking a moment to actually plan things out, which causes a lot of ripple effects. And so each book is like she's solving some of the ripple effects from the prior one, and then realizing she's causing more, because until she gets up to the point where she finally can check herself and allow herself to be a little more rational, be more mature. So for me, my series characters affect them as much as they're surrounded with circumstances.
I love it. Awesome. Jade?
I truly, truly believe that you should make a character realistic and give them, or try to really think from their perspective so that you can make them seem real to the reader. And one of the things that I did is, even though it's a fantasy book about a vampire, and vampires aren't real, I thought of experiences that I've been through that seem similar. And my opening scene is actually about her turning into a vampire, so that transformation. And I drew inspiration from when I was giving birth, actually. And so during my C-section, the medicine didn't work. And so feeling them cut me open and all that fun stuff was definitely big inspiration for the torture that she had to go through.
I love that you drew in.
I was gonna say awesome, but I was like,
That was awesome. Yes, it was. Just as a woman, as soon as you said that, we all felt that. Laura.
I was kind of thinking similar to Adam. Like, I love what Jade said about using your own experiences for the characters, but like Adam, I feel like I really get to know my characters when they interact with other characters and they go through the situations. So at the beginning, when I start writing, I generally have a pretty good idea of where the plot's going and, like, I guess a basic idea of who the characters are, but I feel like I'm getting to know them just as much in that first write through as like the characters are the readers are when they read the final published version. And so, like, there are so many times when I'm writing and I'm like, whoa, I did not see that coming when I planned the story, or like, I'm like, I didn't think you were going to be this sassy, or like whatever it is. So I find that just writing it and seeing how they interact with the situations, like plotting it isn't the same as actually writing it out and finding all the details and seeing how it actually goes down.
Yeah.
And that just like makes such a difference. And like another thing I found that I do a lot is in my series, I've got 3 different series, and so far, well, one of them's co-written and the other 2 that I just do on my own. I often switch, like each book is from a different character's point of view, which is a really fun way to get to know each character because you have to get into their head to write it, because I do first person a lot. And so that's also a really great way for me to learn more about things. I'm like, oh, how do they experience these things? So that's been fun for me.
Now, I have a question for all of you. Actually, it's a request. Can you give us a little insight into your most favorite character in your book and your least favorite character in your book? Katie.
Oh no, I'm trying to like figure out which series.
I saw that head go, God, we'll call on you.
No. Well, for the characters that I really like, I'm going to split to 2 different ones because my adult novella series, it was writing, and my main characters is a young woman who has a gift where she sees essentially guardian angels, but they're in animal form because I'm using Norse mythology. And so she's very timid and mild and shy. And so for me, it's been a challenge to write her since, again, I like the warrior women archetype. But I found out, I fell into my thing, that the older sister I wrote in for her was a shield maiden, a very spunky one in a world where it's patriarchal society, and have this woman who's rising as high as she can and hits this essentially glass ceiling where she can be in her society. And so this frustration from this shield maiden's perspective is something that not only I respect, I really admire her spunk and what she tries to achieve in a society that keeps trying to hold her back. But so I really like her. Her name's Herber from The Guardian Speaker. And the other one that is the book that I've been writing, the one I showed you, has a character, since my author name is Catherine and my main character there is Katie of Earth, because going back to coming up with stories since as long as I can remember, the stories in my Jed Chronicle series are all from characters that I developed with my sister in our imaginary play when we were children. So Katie's my alter ego when I was a child growing up. And so I have to say I love her because she's the me I wish I was when I was, this whatever age she was as a teen, but she is and still is part of me, my alter ego. So I really like her. Least favorite character, I mean, that's hard to say because it's, how do you approach that? Are you approaching it because they're the villain, or are you approaching it because they run flat?
Either or.
Because I have noticed that depending on the book and the character, and I write a lot of characters for my series, I'm one of those that some of my books may have 100 plus named characters, and so they are a lot to choose from. But there are a few which unintentionally kind of do run flat, and it has always been a challenge to me when I see that to try to work them into a more dimensional case. And so whenever I see one of those kind of characters, that irritates me as a writer. And as a personality type, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would have to select one of my villains if I had to pick just a character that I disliked, but because I don't want to spoil who's a villain in some of my books, I want to leave the name unsaid, but I do have a couple that have some very intriguing and infuriating backgrounds, and sometimes you just love to hate them. So
Definitely. Jade?
Yes. One of my, so the vampire that changed my main character, his name is Florence, and he is very, very hated throughout. It's funny because I've had a couple of my TikTok followers start reading the book and say, "Ooh, is it bad that I like Florence?" But by the end, they're like, "I hate him. He's horrible and ridiculous." And it's fun because you don't really find out too much about his backstory until the second and third book. So you start off really hating him and then slowly come to understand him, but still hate him because he's horrible. And then my favorite character, which is also a lot of my readers' favorite character, is someone that I accidentally named a name who everyone, like, I'll see posts that are like, "Oh, Chad, it's such a horrible name. Everyone named Chad is horrible." And I'm like, "Oh no." But then they're like, "Oh, but I love him. He's amazing." And so I'm like, I chose the wrong name, but it all works out because he's redeeming poor Chad's in real life. But yes, he is my favorite.
Awesome. That is awesome. Adam?
My favorite character that I ever created, it was a co-written series with my friend Justin Fike, and we created this character whose name is Stetson Jeff Stetson. You know, like Bond James Bond. He doesn't know how to put the pause in there. So he's kind of a cross between Chuck Norris and Forrest Gump. And I've been working on the audiobooks for this, and just doing that Texas accent, I love it. He's so clueless. It's great. And he's hilarious. So, boy, I don't know. I just love, I think one of the characters, maybe in the Satchel Pong book series, doesn't appear in the first book, but she is, she gets what she deserves because she's just not very careful with other people. And she's not like a user. She just kind of doesn't pay attention to how much she's impacting people and how much they love her. And then she just kind of like, "Oh, I'm going to go do something else now." So she's good for a twist. Anytime I needed a twist, like she would just up and leave, or not be that person's girlfriend anymore, or, whatever. But I think, by the end of book 5, when she gets what she deserves, I'm like, yeah, that's appropriate. So I don't know. I can't say that I hate her, and I don't know that she's super flat. She might be a little bit flat. I haven't really thought about it, but she's about as developed as she needs to be. Yeah, I think that's the thing we can all hope for, right? Is that our characters get what they deserve. I think we all believe in karma, even if we don't. So,
or at least as writers, we get to deliver it.
Yeah, there we go.
That's right.
If you're a good writer.
Maybe that's why so many people believe in karma, is because all the writers have kept handing it to them over and over again.
We're wishing on it. Wishing on it.
That's right. It's a big wish.
Hugo.
Least favorite. Within my book, you'll find that the alliance of elves and men are questing for the source of fire, but they really don't know where it's at. There is an envisioned group, and inside this group of military, a princess and outlander, is a notorious ex-con named Tristan Covers. Covers because he always covers his tracks. He is a misogynist. He has views of women that are just outdated, and yet he continues on it, irritating everyone all the while as they're questing towards this source. And he's just an irritating fellow. Sure, he makes for a great story, but he was just truly hard to write. As for a favorite in the opposite theater, we have an elven crown prince named Eldon Darkstar. He leads cavalry charges against orcs, trolls, necromancers, vampires, werewolves, zombies. And he's continually outflanked, outnumbered, pushed back, and yet he never gives up. He's there right down to the dire end when it's just the last of them, the only hope for the Alliance, and somehow he always pulls out a victory. I like this man very much, and he has a huge role in my second book in the Source Wars series.
Nice. Laura.
Since I'm focusing on my hauntings books, I'm just gonna stick with that cast. And it's not, I'll start with the character that I hate. I wouldn't really say hate. There's two guys. The third and fourth book are from two different guys' points of view, and one ends up with the girl and one doesn't. But without, saying who, I will say that I enjoyed one of the guys. Like, I like them both, so it's weird, but just one of the guys, maybe because he's actually based on a guy that I knew in college. So he makes me want to bang my head against the wall. And when he's like, it's like great. So I'm like, oh, you guys are like he's really great and he's really nice, but he's just so clueless and so slow and just all the things. I'm just like, get your act together, man. And it just made me want to strangle him sometimes. And then the other guy is just obviously he has his own weaknesses, but not the same one. So I was from the beginning, I guess a little biased, and I love him because the other guy's half Japanese and I love Japan. So I was clearly I'm just putting all the things that I like about him in one character and then throwing in some weaknesses to make him real. So yeah, I would, yeah, that's fine.
Abigail.
So I have two characters that I dislike, but for different reasons. One is my villain. I dislike him because he's my dream villain of myself. I even named him after myself a little bit. And he's super into academia and the establishment, and knowledge makes you powerful, and I am therefore better than you. So I don't like him because he's the villain and because he's very pompous. But a character that I don't like from a writer's perspective is actually the character that everyone I know really likes. And he is the normal person that I inserted into my story for reference to all the other, crazy things kind of going on. He's not in every scene. He just, kind of shows up to reground and recenter. He's, I think Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, said it's your Watson, the person who plays opposite. So you can see yes, this is reality. And that's why this main character is so bizarre. And so I don't like him. He's like a tool to me. Well, he's also a tool, but he's like a tool to me. And so I just don't think he's that fascinating, but everyone loves him. And then my favorite characters are my two main characters. I have a male main character and a female main character. I love Sybil so much. I hope I never have to suffer like she does. And then I love my male main character because like Katie said, he's kind of my alter ego. And I wasn't actually going to let him live past book one. But then I got through some stuff in my life and I was like, never mind. you good job. You done it. You can move on. And I, taking a character that was just so destroyed like that and, letting them make it through their own devices. He kind of, he inspired me. I mean, yes, I wrote him, but they say authors are full of themselves. So, yeah, he's definitely my favorite character.
Now, Abigail, I'm going to ask you another question. Is there a certain personality that you will not write?
I ghostwrite a lot too, so there's some that I would never have thought of writing, maybe, that get handed to me. I don't think there's one that I won't write, which
Okay.
might sound a little risky, but
Alrighty, Laura.
I guess maybe like my goal for every book that I write is to make it appropriate for essentially any age. Like I want my nieces and nephews to be able to pick it up and read it and not be like, whoa, my aunt wrote that. This is super awkward. So, but I also want adults to enjoy it, you know, like, so I try and keep it pretty clean. So I feel like that in a way limits my characters. But so far it hasn't limited anything that I've wanted to write. But I'm sure there are definitely things out there that I would not write because I wouldn't become, I can't even get through like an intense kissing scene. So that narrows out a lot of characters for me. So
Yeah, I've had this discussion a couple times with other authors that, you know, everyone has their Achilles heel. There's that one character that has a certain personality that you just, you know, there's the characters you love, the characters you hate, the in between, but there's one personality that you just are like, I cannot do that. And I feel it's as a direct result as you knew someone or you know someone in your life that you're like, no, this character is too reflective of this person. And it's just my take on it, but I've heard it many, many times. Adam.
Well, again, it's an incredibly interesting question that I never actually asked myself before, although I have been asked, well, there's a ghostwriting situation coming up, but I don't have the contract, so I probably better not talk about it. But there's a situation where they're like, it would be great if you could add some humor into this. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Because there's nothing funny about this person's experience that needs to be written. So that's going to cost a lot. And then I laughed because I was serious.
And you know what? When you do get that gig, you're going to be turned around going, damn it, Opus, because you're going to remember this question. I won't write.
If anybody can inject some humor into a situation, it's me. So, but you know, I don't think that I would intentionally. I'm a little bit like Laura. Like, I'm probably not going to intentionally just go out of my way to write like a horrible rape scene or something like that. So. Gotcha. That's kind of stuff that I don't want to mess with. Try to keep it lighthearted. That's not. So.
Okay, Hugo.
I have a lot of strong female leads in my book. A lot of my characters fight right alongside the main heroes of the book, male and female. In these battles, some of them get captured, and like the previous artist, I would not write a rape scene. Maybe implied, but I'm not going to do that, and that's gross. Sorry.
Okay. Jade.
So I don't think that there's anything that I wouldn't write, but I know I would have to write it under a pseudonym because so I'm a teacher and my 6th graders found my TikTok, so they know about my book, and I'm like, you're not allowed to read it until you're older. But yes, if I were to write something like that, then I would definitely have to write it under a pseudonym or something. But I don't think there's anything that's too off limits for me.
Okay. Catherine?
Well, for me, I write different age brackets. So I have young adult, I have a new adult series, and I have an adult series, and each of them are divided by in one way the grittiness of the books. And my adult series is based around Nordic mythos, so it is very gritty in the sense of battle scenes, and just the Nordic mythology is very dark in and among itself. So I have written near rape scenes before, but for me, it's the thing I would probably be most uncomfortable if I had been challenged to do it would be writing a rape scene through the eyes of the rapist. That I don't think I could do. Meaning, you know, if I had to do a victim thing, I could potentially eke around it, but the idea of working through the other person's head, I don't think I could ever do. So that would be my no-go.
Gotcha. Okay. Everyone, I have had a lovely time. I know readers have. Can each of you tell us how to get in touch with you? Abigail, we'll start with you, love.
So the easiest way will be through my website where everything is linked up, and that's just www.abigaillinhart.com. And Linhart is Linhardt because it's German. And everything's linked on there. I got my newsletter. I also got a TikTok the other week, so I'm on there. I'm pretty much everywhere.
I love that. Laura?
I like Abigail, I'm trying this new TikTok book talk challenge, so I just hopped on there this week to try it, but I'm not active yet. So I'd say my website is Laura M. Drake Books, or Facebook, really like the Amazon, like following on Amazon or Goodreads or BookBub, or joining my mailing list is I always offer free scenes at the end of books for mailing list sign up. So that's a great place to go for some free reading.
Okay. Adam?
Yeah, adamgfleming.com. I don't mind if people email me. It's agf@adamgfleming.com. And yeah, like other people, stuff is linked to Amazon. The audiobooks are starting to come out. I'll have links on there for that kind of stuff too. And but yeah, if people get in touch with me, that's through email or sign up for an email list. Even that's a great way to find some freebies. You just never know what I'll be sending out. So
Okay. Hugo?
My Gmail is hugohobb@gmail.com. There's no S, someone else has that. So hugohobb@gmail.com. My book is on Amazon KDP. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter at Hugo Hobb. So feel free to hit me up.
Hugo, is that HOBB or just one B or what?
It's HOBB.
Okay.
Hugo Hobb as like one word.
All right. Jade?
I'm on a bunch of different social media platforms. The biggest one I use is TikTok, and so TikTok and Instagram are both at Jade Austin 09, and then I also have like my link tree on there so that they can go get signed copies or visit my website or my Facebook group and all that fun stuff. So Jade Austin 09.
Okay. Catherine?
Okay, well, you can find me through my website, and that's Catherine, spelled KATHARINE, Wibell, WIBELL, books.com. So CatherineWibellBooks.com. And through that, you'll find links to a lot of my social media platform. I'm pretty much on anything you can think of as Catherine E. Wibell. So you can check me out there. If you are interested in a signed book, I do have an Etsy, which also links to my art page since I'm an artist on the side. And that's under Wibell's Wonders. So Wibell, WIBELL, Wonders. And you can check out there.
Okay. Everyone, I have had a lovely time, and I thank you so much for joining us. And
Thank you for having
readers,
us.
you're very welcome. And readers, a last note. If you want to be a writer, and you are a reader at the same time. I'm trying to say both of them, guys. Same time. If you're a writing reader or a reader writer, please take the advice of others. If you have a question about a character, line up 10 people. Guaranteed. Half are going to like it and half are not. There is always, always, always a story within everyone. That's my take. Personally, that I know of. Everyone, have a beautiful night. And thank you for joining us tonight on Night Vision. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank
Good
you.
Good night.
Night.
You're very welcome, guys.
Thank you. Yeah.